Good morning, students. This is the second part of Dreamcatcher or English 2 Reader Chapter 1 Adventures of Tom Sawyer. So, let's have a recap what we have learnt in the last lesson. We have learnt that Tom lived with his Aunt Polly, cousin Mary, and half brother Sid. He was a very mischievous and naughty boy. So on Friday he went hooky from the school, and Sid told this to Aunt Polly about this. So when Aunt Polly came to know about this, she decided to punish Tom on a holiday, that is the following day, Saturday. So she planned to keep Tom in and punish him by telling him to paint the fence. Tom found himself painting the fence on Saturday holiday, and he was very sad when he came to know about this. Now let's see what happened.
Sighing, he repeated the operation, did it again, compared the insignificant whitewashed streak with the far-reaching continent of unwhitewashed fence, and sat down on a tree box, discouraged. He knew it would take him all the day to give it just one coat.
See, he knew it would take him all day to give it just one coat. So Tom knew that if he would paint himself the full fence, that such a big fence, whole day will be wasted, and he would be able to just give one time painting to all the you can say all the fence, to hold fence, or all the woods of the fence. He could give only one coat, means he could paint them only once with the whitewash. Now Jim the little boy who worked for Aunt Polly, came skipping. I have underlined this word, skipping. Skipping means walking quickly with jumps and steps. And so Jim was coming out from Aunt Polly's home and jumping from the house. So he was happy while coming out. So he was jumping out of the house with a pail. Pail means bucket. He was off to fetch water from the town pump. Tom remembered that Jim never got back in less than an hour. Even though the pump was only 150 yards away, he thought of the boys and the girls who played and quarreled among themselves as they waited for their turns. He turned to Jim and offered, "Say, Jim, I'll fetch the water if you will whitewash some." But Jim had already been warned about this by Aunt Polly, and he was afraid of getting a thrashing. So let's see what happens up to this point.
Now Tom saw Jim. Jim was a little boy who was working for Aunt Polly, coming out of the house. Now Tom wanted somebody to do his work, so he thought of asking Jim. So he was asking Jim whether he would whitewash the fence for him or not. But Aunt Polly had already said to Jim, "If you will do Tom's work, I am going to beat you up." So Jim was already very scared. But Tom thought of another plan. He decided to give him or make him do his work by giving him marbles, or showing the soto. But the plan hadn't succeeded.
So the thought of wasting full Saturday holiday made Tom very, very sad. He wanted to escape out of this situation. He didn't want to waste his full Saturday holiday on painting the fence. But he also didn't want to get scolding from Aunt Polly. So he was thinking of a plan which will save his day. That means which will make him or get him some time to play, and also to also his work would also be finished. So he was thinking of one way where he could get the two goals. So how he was going to do so? So he was thinking and thinking. At that very moment, he saw Jim, the boy who worked for Aunt Polly. So he was also a small boy like Tom. And Tom thought that he can get some time from Jim if he will trade some of his favorite things with Jim. Means if he will gift Jim something, then Jim will allow him to get some free time. He will do his work and Tom will play for some time. So what he saw, that Jim was coming out of the house and he was very happy while coming out from the house. And he was coming out from the house with a pail. Pail means bucket. So he was hopping, jumping. And why? When you hop or jump? When you are very happy. So at that same moment, like that, Jim was coming very happily. So when Tom saw that Jim was coming with a pail or bucket, that means he was going to get water. Fetch water means get water from the town's pump. So this was the time for Tom. So Tom hated to fetch water from the town pump. But he remembered that Jim took 1 hour for getting water from the town pump. And what happened? This might be the chance Tom was waiting for. So Tom thought of bribing Jim. So he said to Jim first, "Okay, Jim, I'll fetch water, I'll get water from the town pump and you do my work, you whitewash some. This is a new sort of job for you." But Jim was already warned. Means Aunt Polly knew that Tom would try to convince Jim for whitewashing the fence. But it was not a punishment for Jim. It was a punishment for Tom. She wanted Tom to get that punishment. Okay. So she already warned Jim. And Jim was very scared. Afraid means scared here. Of getting a thrashing. Thrashing means beating. So then what happened? When Tom saw, okay, this plan is not going to work. So he tried another method. So he offered him. Means tried to give him a gift. And what was the gift? His white marbles. So marbles was something which Jim always wanted. And Tom knew that. So when he offered Jim that I will give you my white marbles, Jim began to get weak. He was thinking whether he should take the marbles, but the thought of Aunt Polly punishing him or beating him also restricted him. So he said, no, I don't want to. Then Tom saw this. He was a very naughty boy, so he saw this. So he said, he offered something more. So that was, I will show you my sore toe, that toe which hurts me so much. So this was the breaking point for Jim. So Jim said, oh, let me see. So as he turned to see that toe, immediately Aunt Polly came from the backside. And when Aunt Polly came from the backside and Tom saw Aunt Polly, Jim ran towards getting the water and Tom started painting the fence with double speed. But Tom's energy soon began to flag, means he was getting tired. He began to think of the fun he had planned for this day. His sorrows multiplied, means he began to become more sadder. Soon the three boys would come tripping along all sort of delicious expeditions, and they would make a world of fun of him for having to work. The very thought of it burned him like fire. Aunt Polly had retired to the house and Tom's mind went back to the fun he had planned for his day. So, where was Tom's mind? His mind was back to the fun he had planned for this day. He examined all his worldly wealth, bits of toys, marbles and trash. He could imagine some of the other children willing to trade work with him, but he knew it was not tempting enough to buy himself even an hour of work away from whitewashing the fence. Sadly, he gave up the idea of trying to buy the boys. And then, at this hopeless moment, he had a wonderful idea. But Tom's energy soon began to flag, means he was getting tired. He began to think of the fun he had planned for this day. His sorrows multiplied, means he began to become more sadder. Soon the three boys would come tripping along all sort of delicious expeditions, and they would make a world of fun of him for having to work. The very thought of it burned him like fire. Aunt Polly had retired to the house, and Tom's mind went back to the fun he had planned for his day. So, where was Tom's mind? His mind was back to the fun he had planned for this day. He examined all his worldly wealth, bits of toys, marbles, and trash. He could imagine some of the other children willing to trade work with him, but he knew it was not tempting enough to buy himself even an hour of work away from whitewashing the fence. Sadly, he gave up the idea of trying to buy the boys. And then, at this hopeless moment, he had a wonderful idea.
He began to get tired, and he began to think what he had planned all day. He would go swimming, he would play with his friends, and so on. And he became sadder and sadder and sadder. He was thinking that soon all the other free children, all the boys, his friends, would come, and they would be very happy. They will come and behave in crazy way. They will laugh, they will play, and everything they will do. And that their world will be full of fun. And what he will do? He has to work. And this thought made him more sadder. And it was very painful for him, like he was burning in fire. Meanwhile, Aunt Polly retired back to the house, and Tom stopped painting. He was thinking about what he had planned all days. Tom examined what he had. Otherwise, how he can get some free time. So he had some bits of toys, some trash, old pieces of toys, some marbles, and other things. So he started examining them and found out they were not enough to tempt any boy. So he knew that nobody will work for these things. So what happened? He became very sad that even he could not get any half spare hour where somebody can work for him and he would play. So he gave up that idea. This idea is not going to work. And at this very sad moment, again he thought of something very wonderful, how he will manage this situation. He never wanted to let the other boys make fun of him, and also he wanted to spend his Saturday holiday nicely. So he got an idea. Now let's see what Tom does next. So this was for today. Now this is the homework question which you have to do in your fair notebook.